You're listening to Inside the Village, where all news is local and no topic is off limits.
So help me, Bob, it's bully in the alley. Hey, bully in the alley. So help me,
Welcome back to another episode of Inside the Village for the week of March 1st, 2023. I'm Scott Sexsmith alongside Village Media Editor-in-Chief Michael Friscolanti. Welcome back.
Thanks, buddy. Good to see you.
We should mention, and we will, Inside the Village is brought to you by Mitch Snedden at Reverse Mortgage Pros. For guides, articles, and information, go to reversemortgagepros.ca. Do you believe it's March 1st already?
March 1st. Spring training's in full gear.
Yes. Now, there is a saying, March, because Derek told us, in like a lion, out like a lamb. But you hadn't heard of that expression.
That's the first I've heard of it.
So I think what that means, and Derek will correct us, lots of storms, lots of snow. That's the lion part. But it should calm down and go out like a lamb. But your reference to spring training is a good one. Yeah. It's here. It's ball season. Your Tigers, how are they looking?
They're not looking too good. But you know what? The hope springs eternal at spring training, right? So opening days in March this year. I think March 30th. It's not even April. So
really?
Yeah. So by the end of the month is opening day. And, spring training is a beautiful thing. I covered it once. I went down there once. And it is the strangest place, right? Because everybody's so pumped about baseball. People are in the stands drinking beer. And the players are not trying to win the game. It's a whole different game. They're just working out their swing and, practicing the ground balls. Pitchers are getting their inning in. It's so strange. And all the years I was a baseball fan, I really didn't grasp spring training until I saw it in person. My son's like, are they going to do okay in the grapefruit league? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter at all.
So they're not trying to win games, but are they trying to win spots, roster spots?
That's what it is. Yeah, the players are trying to win roster spots, and the guys are, putting in their reps, as they say, right?
Yeah.
That's why by the ninth inning, there's nobody left on the bench. They finish, like the good players will finish their inning of pitching. They don't go sit in the dugout. They go shower and go home.
Right.
Yeah, they do the laps. So you see them jogging laps around center field. Like it's hilarious.
They go into the gym and ride the bike.
Yeah, they ride the bike.
Much like you and I do after we tape ITV.
Yeah, before and after.
And it shows. Blue Jays open at home at Sky Dome, Rogers Center, April 11th, I believe. Looking forward to it.
Oh, that's great. I think they're playing the Tigers.
Are they really?
I do think they're opening at home against the Tigers.
Okay, well, if that's the case, then we need to clear our afternoon schedule, and we're going to have a viewing party, an ITV viewing party.
I thought you were going to say they would pay for us to go there, but I doubt that would happen.
Company jet?
Yeah.
Down to
the Village jet. Yeah, we'll fly Air Canada. You guys love that.
Don't get me fired up, man. What I am fired up about, and I know that you are too, and the entire editorial staff here at Village, the Trillium, of course, we talked about it last week. We're into week 2. How are things going with the Queen's Park team?
Oh, it's been amazing. It's been so fun to see. It is fun. Journalism's fun. I love this job. I love this business. And to see a group like that so keen to break stories and to cover breaking news at the same time, just talking to them in the morning and listening to them tell me what they're working on. As we speak right now, they've got a big scoop in the work that's going to land within the next couple hours. It's just great to have that energy, right? I think, to be honest, it also puts Village on the map. It shows us that we are the serious journalists we are. We have these great sites, great local journalism sites across the province, but now we have a team at the center of power in the province, and they're breaking the news at Queen's Park. But as Jessica Smith-Cross, our great editor there, mentioned even today at a meeting, that the goal is to make those stories matter to the people who actually live in Ontario and don't just focus on Queen's Park all day. So we're telling stories that are relevant to people no matter where they live in Ontario, and I think that's what's really exciting. So we're starting to see our teams in those communities working with those journalists as well. So it's really exciting stuff.
Yeah, you've got my curiosity peaked now with a breaking story just around the corner. We'll stay tuned.
Thetrillium.ca.
Absolutely. We can't say it enough. Thetrillium.ca. Okay, no guests this week, but you and I have lots of ground to cover, including TikTok, Russian sanctions, and of all things, Shoresy. And we'll do it when Inside the Village returns right after this.
Are you over 55 and considering a reverse mortgage? Receive the free guide that shows you how reverse mortgages really work. Reverse Mortgage Pros, providing trustworthy advice to help you make the right decision. To learn more, visit reversemortgagetruth.ca.
Welcome back to Inside the Village, brought to you by Mitch Snedden at Reverse Mortgage Pros for guides, articles, and yes, information and lots of it. Go to reversemortgagepros.ca.
Are reverse mortgages can anyone get those?
I could be wrong. I mean, Mitch is the expert here, but I think you have to be 55 years of age or older to qualify. But that's a question for Mitch, not for me.
You could have applied a few years ago then.
Not quite. Frankly, I don't think I'm ever going to get out of this room, so it's not going to matter.
I feel like you'd have to put a reverse mortgage on this studio, I think, because you live down here. I never see you anymore. I always see you. You're hiding in the basement, but it's for good reason, right? I'm sure our readers have noticed, right? We do a segment called Behind the Scenes, and we're doing a lot more of them. We kind of ramped them up over the last few months. And basically, it's you speaking to our reporters about the great stories they're working on, and they've been great. I'm really enjoying the stuff you're putting out.
Yeah, thanks. We have lots of fun, and nobody knows better than you the talent level that we have across the network. But really, what we do is find an interesting story and then reach out to the reporter and sit down, over a Zoom link and have them really give us kind of the behind the scenes, hence the name, to the story and stuff that may not have been captured in the original article. And just have a great conversation about it.
It reminds me of that old school, when you'd be at the newspaper and you'd break a good story. The local radio station would give you a call and say, "Can you come on for 10 minutes and talk about that story?"
Yeah.
I really feel it's exactly like that, and I think it's great because a lot of times you don't know who your local reporter is. You see the byline, you might see their picture with their byline, but you don't get a sense of who they are and the kind of person they are. And this takes you, like you said, behind the scenes. The reporter will talk about where that story came from, how it came about, but sometimes there'll be some good personal nuggets in there, and I just think it adds some more depth to the pieces. It just gives another way to look at the story. Yeah,
it really does. And recently we've had some good ones. I think of Bernard at Thorold today with the McDonald's coming to that community. It's caused outrage. People are for it. People are against it. Sean Gibson at Barrie today, covering the tragic story of a church fire earlier this week and what that congregation is going to do for the next several months. But I think the one that stands out the most to me this week, Chris Dawson talking about the Crave hit television show Shoresy.
Oh, that's the one, the hockey guys. This is a great story. So I noticed that there was a story on Bay Day that had 6,000 shares on Facebook, right? And the story was about how Shoresy, the TV show, is looking for extras, right? So they put out a call for we need some guys to sign up to be players on the bench or extras, right? And I guess what amazed me was just how overwhelming the attention was given to that story, right? How many times it was shared. So you got Chris to come on and talk about how that came to be. Yeah, it was great, and he's a good sport and a big hockey guy. And in fact, Derek, let's run the clip from when we had Chris on talking about the overwhelming response that they got when the article first appeared on Bay Today.
It was unbelievable. It really was. How it started, Scott, is, and I mean, when we've done this before, I've flipped a couple of hats. So it actually ended up being an email sent by Ashley St. Jean out of Sudbury to the Powassan Voodoos asking for the junior team that I'm the manager of. And in our conversation, I said, well, you know what? I mean, we're hoping to be playing hockey still in April in the playoffs. So I don't know if we would really be suitable, but they were asking if the Voodoos would be interested. Well, then I went and emailed her and said, well, you know, I work for Bay Today and Village Media, and do you mind me putting this out there for, a bunch of, other hockey players in North Bay, because, Shoresy's a pretty popular show, especially amongst the 20-somethings and teenagers too. And she thought it was a great idea at the time. But then fast forward a couple days after we had put the story out, and there was something like 6,000 shares, and my favorite email was to our news desk. Someone just randomly, need a goalie, and subject line Shoresy. So I think that just goes to show it was a wave of interest. And I mean, the crazy part for anybody that doesn't know, Shoresy is produced in Sudbury, predominantly at Countryside Arena, which is conveniently for when you're traveling right on the bypass off of Sudbury when you're coming into Sudbury from Sioux or North Bay. But yeah, 6,000 shares for a story is unbelievable, especially when asking for hockey players who are going to go try out or go to a casting call in Sudbury. So as I mentioned before, we've been very receptive to a lot of different producers when they've sent info out. Can you put some information about a casting call, whether it was a Hallmark movie or a science fiction movie? And it's always been very positive, and they've appreciated this. But this time, and the funny part was, Ashley asked me if we can remove it because they just can't keep up with all the calls and all the interest in all these people wanting to be on the Blueberry Bulldogs and be a line mate of Shoresy, so to speak.
Who wouldn't want to be on the Blueberry Bulldogs? Now, in all your times as a reporter, Chris, have you ever had a contact reach out and say, hey, that great piece that you wrote, could you take it down for us? Because the response has just been overwhelming. Has that ever happened?
No, that will be a first in all the years. You get a lot of people, on the other hand, when they don't like a story, take that down. I don't like that. But for someone to say your story was too good, too many people saw it, get rid of it, it's never happened before. I don't think it's probably going to happen again, Scott.
Can you imagine the amount of emails that they got? Like every guy who plays beer league hockey is saying, "Please put me on. I want to be on the bench." And Shoresy, I mean, to the point where she asked him to take it down. I mean, that's just the best.
It is, and Chris was a good sport for doing that. And if you'd like to see more behind the scenes, you can find that under the features tab of your favorite Village Media website. Okay, let's, in the vein of hockey, but certainly a little more serious, the Canadian government, of course, recently imposing some sanctions on Russia imposed under the Special Economic Measures Act. And a great poll on one of our sites in North Bay today, of course, asking the question, should Canada's latest sanctions on Russia include Russian hockey players? What do you think the response would be? Any idea?
I think it maybe split down the middle, pretty close. People have pretty emotional about it, I would think.
Well, surprisingly, and as we're taping here today, over 1,100 votes, 68% of the respondents are in favor of it. So I guess it begs the question, when you talk about the sanctions that have been now imposed, and then you're looking at, okay, do we impose this on professional athletes, specifically NHL athletes? And I believe there's 57 active Russian players in the NHL. What would that look like?
Yeah, it's definitely a loaded question, but it's one people are talking about, especially as Ovechkin chases down Gretzky's all-time goal record. There's been some great reporting done on lots of people who understand the issues talking about it. I remember that the NHL put out a statement condemning the war in Ukraine when it first started. Pretty bold, clear statement condemning the war, but at the same time, they were also concerned about the safety of the Russian players, stressing the fact that they don't play for Russia, they play for their NHL teams. But there are people out there who are saying that maybe they should ban the NHL players from Russia because of the war, especially Ovechkin. It's a difficult question because Ovechkin has been very clearly been a supporter of Putin
and the face of the league, really.
And he's the face of the league right now, right? And he has not come out to condemn the war. He's actually said basically nothing about it.
Yeah.
And it's very difficult. I don't even know how the NHL would even how would they do that? I mean,
and if you're Gary Bettman, you've got the biggest star, certainly top three, who we know has supported Putin. Mm-hmm. I don't know. It's a tough call. I wouldn't want to be in his shoes.
Yeah, and I think it would have to be like if a player came out and said a certain thing, actively right now supporting what the horrible things that are happening in Ukraine. If they were doing that, then maybe there'd be an argument to be made. But how do you say to every Russian player, including some who don't support what Putin's doing, but are maybe too afraid to say so? Why should they be banned from? How do you just pick all the people from one country and say no, you're not playing for us anymore?
Well, I guess some would say you can't paint everybody with the same paintbrush, but in this instance, to send a clear and distinct message, how do you not?
Yeah, and I don't know if some of these Russian players are American or Canadian citizens too. Are they dual citizens now? They've been playing in the league a long time. I mean, I don't know. I would have to Google that. I don't know, but I mean, that's part of it. And then does it extend down to the minor leagues, to the OHL, to the Western Hockey League? Like, do you tell these kids who are 16, 17 years old that you can't play here because you're Russian?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Former NHL goaltender from years back, Dominic Hasek, star with the Buffalo Sabres, has been extremely vocal, certainly against Alexander Ovechkin. In fact, I think in one interview, Hasek was quoted as saying that Ovechkin was, quote, chicken shit for the way that he was responding to what's going on. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, he put that out there. I think it was Twitter where he said that.
Yeah.
Right? And he did do. I think it was on the CBC. He talked about. He expanded on that, and I'm just going to read one of the quotes. Alex is the best advertisement for the war out of all the Russian hockey players, and that's because he's both the best shooter and Putin's trusted propagandist. The Russian army attacked democratic Ukraine for absolutely no reason. And Russian hockey players in the NHL are now the best advertisement for the Russian war and Russian crimes, including the genocide of Ukrainian children. In Hasek's mind, therefore, if the NHL does not want to support the Russian war and crimes, it must not allow Russian players to go on the ice. So I'm sure there's a lot of people that would agree with that, too.
Yep, absolutely. All right, we'll have to see where that situation ends up. In the meantime, still time for you to have your say. baytoday.ca, fill out the poll. Should Canada's latest sanctions on Russians include Russian hockey players? Be interesting to see where that ends up. All right, let's shift gears here to social media, one that I'm not on, have never been on, know very little about, but TikTok has certainly been in the news the last several days.
Yeah, so the federal government has banned TikTok on all government-run devices. The Ontario government's considering following suit. I think the city of Guelph that's doing it, and this also means that politicians are backing it. For I believe Pierre Poilievre has announced that he's no longer on TikTok. I think Jagmeet Singh, the NDP leader,
right,
who has I think almost 1 million followers on TikTok and is way more than any of the other leaders. He's going to shut it down. It's interesting how quickly this came to be, right? Because the whole thing with TikTok is that the Chinese government has a stake in the company that runs it, and of course China's not too concerned about your privacy, and they can basically go and say we want to see everyone's data right now. There's no rules against it, but there's also the security aspect of it too, right? Because you have to imagine that the intelligence agencies, that there was some briefing or something happened.
Somebody knows something.
Someone knows
about
something. Yeah, and this says we need to do this now and get it done because it was pretty swift. It's not like this is new. We've known that TikTok was always concerning for that reason.
Yeah.
But yeah, it'll be interesting to see what this means to, in a lot of different ways. But it'd be interesting to see what it means to these politicians' ability to reach younger voters. I mean, that was for Jagmeet Singh. That was a big deal.
Absolutely, it's a huge part of platforms that they use to reach their engaged audience. Mm-hmm. It begs the question, though, where do you draw the line? Does it end with TikTok? Does it extend now to Twitter, Facebook, Instagram? Mm-hmm. Some may make an argument that Elon Musk may be, not the best guy to have at the helm of a social media platform. Some would argue the same thing about Mark Zuckerberg. Mm-hmm. Do you think this is a trend that we're going to see with corporations, municipalities, governments, where they're just going to draw the line and say, that's it, everybody off?
I'm certainly no expert on it, but I think it's that security thing that where the line is, right? It's like that this poses a security threat, and I feel like they feel like the companies that run those other companies still have to follow laws that American laws, Canadian laws, whereas the one that China doesn't. They can do this. They can do whatever they want. Yeah. So I think that's kind of where the line draws. So I don't know if that'll happen. I have my own personal opinion on whether we should all be banning Facebook.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think this is probably going to stay with just TikTok.
All right, good discussion. As long as Village Media does not kick you and I off of MySpace, we're good. Inside the Village is brought to you by Mitch Snedden at Reverse Mortgage Pros. For guides, articles, and information, go to reversemortgagepros.ca. Frisco and I back to wrap right after this.
Reporters, editors, and journalists who go the extra mile to get the story and get it right. Go behind the scenes with those who cover the stories that matter most to you and your community. Look for it in the Village Features section of your favorite Village Media website across Ontario.
Welcome back to Wrap on Inside the Village for the week of March 1st, 2023. During commercial break, executive producer Derek Turner showing Frisco and I how TikTok works, because we're Well, we're not pros.
No, you're lying. I know that you have a ton of followers on your TikTok, and everybody is going to be heartbroken when you bail on them.
You know what? In all seriousness, it was a platform that I never got into because I didn't understand it. You know, my kids are on it, and of course, you see all kinds of. It's about short videos, right? That's the whole gist
Like
of it.
behind the scenes, or even shorter.
Even shorter.
Yeah.
Not as good, but shorter. Don't forget behind the scenes Village features. In the top nav bar, as they call it on your favorite Village Media website.
Well, look at you using the terminology. See, you got it.
See, when you hang around with guys like Scott Elgie long enough, shout out to Scott, friend of the show, you learn stuff like that.
We got to get Scott on the show.
He would be dynamic.
We ask him every week, and he just won't come on. I know.
He puts his head down and just
runs away. Oh, well. Next time. Maybe next week.
Maybe next week. There's a bit of a tease. Maybe Scott Elgie next week makes his ITV debut. All right, we're out of here. Don't forget, Inside the Village can be found wherever you get your favorite podcasts, of course, across the Village Media Network and at insidethevillage.ca, and brought to you by our great sponsor, Mitch Snedden at Reverse Mortgage Pros. For guides, articles, and information, go to reversemortgagepros.ca. For Editor-in-Chief Michael Friscolanti, Executive Producer Derek Turner, I'm Scott Sexsmith. Talk to you next Wednesday.
You've been listening to Inside the Village.
Frisco and Scott's Wardrobe, provided in part by Moores, Sault Ste. Marie.